Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're on my book nook, and today we have a video I haven't really seen anyone else do, so maybe I'll start a new trend or something like that. But basically it's like what books I would put on like scratch off posters. One poster is going to be books that I've read that I would give to like other people, and another poster would be like books that I would like. Another poster would have books that I need to read, so it'd be like my scratch off poster. So I thought it would have been fun to do both versions. This spurs from a video that I watched. I'll link it down below, where this one booktuber, I believe, she found a bunch of like bookish scratch off posters, and then she essentially decided to like rank them and tell her viewers which is the best. And I thought it'd be fun to do my own sort of spin on it. I don't have the energy to go through and find a bunch of bookish scratch off posters, so I decided to make my own. So I thought it'd be fun to just sort of go through it. So we're gonna do let's do the TBR poster first. You know what? We're gonna do the TBR poster. So these are books that I need to read, whether I've started them or I have a copy or whatever. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I speak 3 languages. I speak Russian, English, and French, okay? And that means that I can read in all 3 languages. So these will have books that are in languages besides English. And I will tell you the English version of it, okay? And these might be books that I have read in English, but I want to read in the original language. So I feel like that still counts. It doesn't matter. That's just a little asterisk, a little caveat that I wanted to, I wanted to preface this video by talking about it. So the first book I have is The Silmarillion by J.R. Tolkien, edited by his son Christopher Tolkien. This is the essentially history book of Middle Earth prior to like the War of the Ring. Is it called the War of the Ring? So I really want to get this. It would be really fun to like actually make a scratch off poster. Let me know if you want me to do that. I think that I don't think it's terribly difficult. You can literally go to Michael's and like print it off and stuff and buy like the scratch off stuff. I think it would be just like really fun to do. So let me know if you want me to do a video on that. As I said, this is like the penultimate. This is the work of Tolkien. He loved The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, but The Silmarillion is essentially... Sorry, I'm going to move forward a little bit. The Silmarillion is essentially what he was working towards for a majority of his life. There we go. We're going to do that. If I'm looking over there, I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm just making sure I am in frame and I don't look stupid. So then we have The Letters of J.R. Tolkien. The Letters of J.R. Tolkien is mainly just like a collection of his letters to his sons, to his wife, to his publishers and agents and stuff like that, that really give a deeper and more meaningful insight to the world of The Lord of the Rings, and gives you answers to questions you may have that are not in the books, that are not answered in the books, or the Silmarillion, or the Unfinished Tales, or the Fallen Numenor, etc., etc. So I just think that it would be really cool to read the letters as well, to gain a deeper understanding of the world that Tolkien created with so much love and so much care and so much just genius. Then we have War and Peace by Tolstoy. We also have Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. How do I defend myself in this case? How am I going through life as a Russian not having 23 years old and I haven't read War and Peace or Anna Karenina? I have a copy of Anna Karenina somewhere. It's like right there. I have a copy of War and Peace right there. I have no excuses. I will get to it eventually. They scare me. Well, to be honest, Tolstoy doesn't scare me as much as like Dostoevsky does, which, speaking of Crime and Punishment and Brothers Karamazov, are the next 2 books that I would like to read. The next set of books that are on this scratch out poster, TBR. So let's just say that those 4 books are probably the books that I am the most terrified to read, because, oh my god, because like I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'd be just too stupid to understand the depth of it, because everyone, for some reason, there's this expectation when I say that I'm Russian, that I've read all these greats and I actually understand them. I just want to read my silly little fantasy novels. I don't mind reading classic once in a while and really using my brain cells. But War and Peace, I need to be in a very specific mindset for it. So, yeah, no. This is really bothering me, sorry. Then we have, this isn't a specific like story or a specific book or anything. It's just there's this really cool edition from the Everyman's Library, I think it's called, and it's Novels, Tales, Journeys, the Complete Prose of Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, who is another Russian writer. He is often quoted as the founder, as the father of like Russian poetry, of like poetry and stuff. So I would love to read his books. Obviously, I'm going to read it in English first. I tried to read like the tale of Ruslan and Lyudmila. Why is it so difficult? Iconic. Why is it so difficult? It is not easy. And you have to understand, like I am Russian and I'm fluent, but I haven't really been, like, the only Russian sort of, I guess, setting I'm really in is home. I've never really been in a proper, like, I didn't grow up in a Russian social setting, really. I don't really have many Russian or Russian speaking friends. So it's like I'm missing on a whole, I don't know, on a lot of like vocabulary and stuff, which is why I'm trying to read more in Russian, but it's slow going. We're getting there. But you know, I'm fluent, but again, there's just some things missing, and you can tell that I'm like a third gen kid. You can tell that I did not fully grow up back home, wherever you want that to be. Then we have The Master and Margarita by Bulgakov. I'm not as intimidated to read this one, to be honest. It looks fairly short, and honestly, the cat on every picture, on every cover, really gets me. So, I don't know. Then we have one of those that is like, I read it in English, but I want to read it in the original, and that is De Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. And I read The Count of Monte Cristo, which is the English version, earlier this year in English, and I loved it. And to be honest, when I read a little bit, when I started, before I fully got into the book, I tried the French version for a little bit, and honestly, it's not that difficult. It's just the size like the length of it intimidates me, and also all the covers are really ugly, and I really don't want mass market paperback editions, and I might have to bite the fucking bullet and get it. I don't know. So, Le Comte de Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, and similarly, I haven't read this in English yet, but I'm keeping this as the French version. I want to read Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo, or The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I do have the English copy. Again, the covers of all these are ugly so I tend to just like avoid it or read it on like my tablet or like my e-reader or something like that, because I can change the cover. Then we have Les Trois Mousquetaires, The Three Musketeers, also by Alexandre Dumas, and I haven't read this one in English, but I do want to read it in the original French. Then we have Fellowship of the Ring, Bratство Кольца, Two Towers, Две крепости, and Возвращение короля, The Return of the King by Tolkien, in Russian specifically, in translation, wherever I decide to put the book covers. This is I have been slowly reading Fellowship of the Ring in this translation, and I'm enjoying it. The thing about the cover of the second book is that is one hell of a spoiler. Imagine reading the books for the first time. Like, let's say you read it in Russian, you've never seen the movies, you have no idea what happens, right? And you get a copy of the second book, like Two Towers. It is the scene where Boromir is lying against a tree with arrows impaled in him, and he is dying. So, like, that is in the first chapter of Two Towers is the farewell of Boromir, the departure of Boromir, I think it is. That is such a spoiler. I don't know. That's such a spoiler. It's kind of ridiculous. Anyways, then we have North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which is a book that is similar to Pride and Prejudice. It is inspired by Pride and Prejudice, I believe. Then we have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I read this ages ago, but I want to read it again. We have Jane Eyre, which is one of my mom's favorite books, so she's been trying to get me to read that for ages. We have Anne of Green Gables. I'm not going to talk about it. Anne of Green Gables is one of those that, man, I just have like, I'm a really like empathetic person, and I don't like it when characters are like treated in not a kind way. Does that make sense? Like, not like, so it's a little difficult for me to get into Anne of Green Gables. Then we have Narnia by C.S. Lewis, and I mean like all the books, and I'm going to do it in the proper order, which is like not chronological, publication order, I believe is the correct one. Then we have literally a bunch of Jules Verne books, and specifically I want to read these in English, and I'll obviously read them in French, but on this TBR list, on this scratch-off list, we have the English version. So I only have one of these. In these editions, which are pretty cool, I only have one of these, but I do have like a big version where there's like a bunch of them in one, although it's really heavy. So, so we have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Mysterious Island, In Search of the Castaways, which is my mom's favorite Jules Verne book. I can't say Jules Verne. It's weird. And B is the one I have an edition of in this edition. And then we have Around the World in 80 Days. And then we have From the Earth to the Moon and Around the Moon. So that concludes what happened in the WhatsApp group chat. Okay, anyways. So that concludes the TB for me. And then this is the reading list. So the books that I've read. So we have, and I'm just going to go through it fairly quickly. I don't want to take too much time. We have Lord of the Rings, read and loved. We have The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance. And the reason why I didn't put the other three is I don't like the other three as much. And the 1,000 pages that you go through in Way of Kings is insanely worth the absolute mind-boggling amazingness that is Words of Radiance. So that's probably like I think that's the only series where I'll be like, you need to read book 1 in order to fully grasp the absolute insane, just everything in the second book. Like, does that make sense? This is the only series where I will probably say it. Then we have Picture of Dorian Gray, which is one of my favorite classics, and this is the first classic that I've ever read for myself. No profs, no teachers, no assignments, nothing. And I annotated it, and I loved it. Then we have Pride and Prejudice, which is, funny enough, the first book I read this year, and I loved it. I loved it. People have been recommending me this book for years, ever since I was like 15, and I've resisted, and I read it at the perfect time, honestly. Then we have The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I said earlier, I read this earlier this year, and I really loved it. And if you notice that I might be in a slightly different position, no, you didn't. My phone overheated, and when it overheats, it doesn't let me film. So I had to wait till the phone cooled down, and then also my grandmother called me. So there's that. Anyway, continuing on, I've really enjoyed The Count of Monte Cristo. I literally recommend it to anyone that will listen to me. So please read The Count of Monte Cristo. It is 1,000 pages of just like pure insanity, like truly so good. Then we have Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This book blew my mind. It was so good. And I don't know how I resisted reading this series for so long. And now I have to wait for the 4th book. I have no information about the 4th book. No one has any information about the 4th book. We don't know when it's coming. We don't know what it's called. I don't know. I need the 4th book like now. Then we have Blood Over Bright Haven by Emma Long. This one is another one that blew my mind. I still haven't read The Sword of Kaigan. Will I ever read The Sword of Kaigan? Who the hell knows? I don't know. I don't know. But this one was also really, really good. I guess I can really say that for any of these. But anyways, then we have Deathless by Catherine M. Valente. This is one of my favorite books that I read this year. This was an absolute banger. This is just like a retelling of the tale of Cachet the Deathless, or Maria Morevna Cachet the Deathless, whatever you want to call it, with the backdrop of like the Soviet Union and like the revolution and everything. And it's just World War II and just insanity. Then we have Human Acts by Han Kang. Then this one was, I went into it with really little to no knowledge, and then came out utterly destroyed. I'm pretty sure I read this between like, I think Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, or Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. I don't remember, but that was an insane thing to read between two like really really big fantasy books. Then we have Sabriel, Lyriel, and A Porson by Garth Nix. This is the only one where I like include all the books. Well, not all of them, but this is the Old Kingdom trilogy. I read it last year. I was supposed to continue Clash of Kings, and then I didn't. And then I picked up Sabriel instead. Yeah, really good. Really way ahead of its time, to be honest. And then we have The Will of the Many by James Islington. I read this as an arc. Yes, I've waited like a year and a half, almost 2 years at this point, I think, for the second book. I need to reread this too. Then we have The Witch and the Tsar. Do I need to go? If this is your first impression of me, The Witch and the Tsar is a book that I end up sneaking into almost every like recommendation video possible. And if it's not possible, I add a caveat to include it. So, like, that's the only book that I'll make an exception for. Take with that what you will. Then we have The Hobbit by Jared Tolkien. Love. We have Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I think that Eye of the World is really worth it. Just like the first book. Read the first book and don't bother continuing, but you don't have to continue. I didn't continue, but, you know, listen, Eye of the World is a commitment. Okay? It is a commitment. I haven't committed to it. Then we have the Shahnameh. Technically, I'm cheating with this one because I haven't fully read it, but I need everyone to read the Shahnameh. I need everyone to read the Iliad, and I need everyone to read the Odyssey. And stop recommending the Song of Achilles as a good Iliad retelling. Thank you. Next. Then we have An Ember in the Ashes. This was like one of the main series I think that I read when I first started like Bookstagram. Insane book. This is phenomenal. City of Brass. I still have to finish this series. Six of Crows. Surprised it took this long for me to get to Six of Crows. Oh, okay. I guess the Old Kingdom and the Six of Crows duology are the only ones where I include all the books. Well, not all the books, because Old Kingdom is not a trilogy, but whatever. I count it as a trilogy because I'm not going to read the other 3 books. Six of Crows, Crooked Kingdom. I think I liked Crooked Kingdom more than I liked Six of Crows. I can't exactly explain to you why. But, and lastly, we have Silence of the Girls, aka the superior Iliad retelling. No, I will not be taking any further questions or whatever. I will not be hearing any arguments. So, that is the end of this video. I had to stop halfway through, which was unfortunate. Not even halfway through. I was halfway through this second page. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know which books you would also add to your, like, you know, your scratch off list, I guess. And yeah, and let me know which ones you would keep, which ones you would add, which ones you would switch around, and which ones I have convinced you to hopefully read, I guess. That is it for this video. If you enjoyed this fun little video, like, comment, subscribe. As usual, let me know your thoughts down below. Follow me on all my socials, and I will see you in the next one. Happy reading!